Councilor Crisati,
Here.
Councilor Hendrickson,
Here.
Councilor Ludwig,
Here.
Councilor Mangini, absent. Councilor Nakuda,
Here.
Who's that?
Mayor Nelson,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Pisner,
Here.
Councilor Russo,
Here.
Councilor Santana,
Here.
Councilor Ungary.
Here.
And 9 present, 2 absent.
Thank you, Steve. And we will roll right into budget discussions, and we're going to start this evening with the IT department, presented by Chief Information Technology Officer Paul Russell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hang on a minute, I gotta share my screen.
All right.
And in the budget book, it's code 1210-0000.
What's the matter?
What do you need? My budget. I think it's upstairs. My budget's upstairs.
Are we having
All right.
technical
I think we're all
difficulties?
Nope, we just
I can
slow
call
on the
IT
keyboard.
if you need to.
Just slow on the keyboard.
We have people standing by.
We should be good.
All right, great, thank you. For our fiscal year 26 proposal, 2026 proposal, I'm proposing an increase in salaries of 44,000. And I asterisked that because I had that broken out further. What we did is we've combined 2 positions into one, and moving one from a administrative assistant to professional and technical, so from the clerical to the P&T union. And then the others were to upgrade the salaries for taking on additional responsibilities that reduced our operating expenses overall. Insurance, you see there's a increase by 30,000, Social Security 1,200, and Medicare an 890 for a total of 77,000 increase. And that's a 6.5% increase over fiscal year 2025 adopted. What we're doing is we had a contract specialist that was $51,000 a year, and the administrative assistant was making $50,000 a year. We've converted the work for the contract specialist and added inventory as well to the existing position of admin assistant to create our position tech support specialist. This brings on a much more intense technical responsibility for the position. And by combining those 2 positions, the original expense to the department was $101,000. Now being able to handle those same amount of responsibilities for $70,000. So an overall savings of about $31,000. Our network team, we're adjusting salaries for a network administrator and a desktop engineer to $85,000. It's based upon what the market will bear for those 2 positions, as well as they took on additional duties for cybersecurity, managed services, and system design. We were paying a managed service company $97,000 a year for that. So we transferred most of those duties to the desktop engineer and network administrator, and they've gone through training and are certified for that. But we needed an additional $35,000 just for some of the routine maintenance patches and so on. But again, the total savings for increasing those salaries but reducing the expenses was a savings of nearly $50,000 overall. The operations delta, as you can see, professional development, I'm looking to put back in the $1,500 that we had taken out for last year. We anticipate having a new employee coming on board throughout the next year due to a retirement. So I wanted that to be able to be part of the professional development and include in a team. The money that we used last year made it possible for us to bring the admin assistant to the tech support specialist, as well as increase the responsibilities for the desktop engineer and the network administrator. We've had an increase in technical services of 4%. Most of the increases that we had seen over our software and maintenance subscriptions were anywhere between 5 and 10%. Some had tried to go to 15, but I clearly stated that we would not be able to continue doing business with them. We're also still trying to negotiate some of those planned increases, so hopefully we can get a reduction on that. But right now it stands at, we would see an increase of almost $100,000 in technical services, which equates to about 4%. Telephone and telecom, there's been an increase in copper fees. I don't know, some people have known that they're trying to get out of the copper field, and they're reducing that because it's such old technology and old cable plants. So they're really increasing the fees on that. And we've also seen an increase on our data fees as well, which is indicated by the SIP. A grand total of $24,550, or a 9% increase. We were able to see a reduction in our technical equipment. We were able to renegotiate and get a better price on the equipment as well as the lease amount. So we had budgeted $47,750 more than what we anticipated for 2025, so we can reduce that from our 2026 technical equipment line item. And then other purchases, we've seen an increase of almost 16%. Shipping for returning equipment has gone up. Anything that needs to be fixed, sent back to the manufacturer, get returned, the shipping costs have gone up astronomically. And also, we anticipate with the new contracts having to go out to RFP, so there'll be an additional expenses related to advertising. Overall, total operational increase is $79,000, or approximately 2% over last year. We looked at the fiscal of 2026. We had up the salaries, professional development, tech services, telecom, technical equipment, other purchase services, and dues and subscriptions. We've seen an increase of approximately 3.38% overall to last year's budget. So the budget request is for a 3.38% increase over the fiscal year 2025 with the changes that have been indicated. Over the proposed 3.5% increase, we see that the breakout between salaries, benefits, and operations is approximately straight line from last year. 74% for the operations of last year dropped to 73%, 6% in benefits increased to 7% in benefits this year, and then the percentage of expenses for salaries has stayed at the 20%. The breakout services that we are proposing for fiscal year 2026 is 39% of those services are for the Education Board of Ed. 4% is for emergency services, police, EMS, and then the rest is for town-related services at 57%. That's it for the IT. We also have ETV that is part of our organization. I don't know if you would like me to stop here to discuss any of the IT or just go straight through to the ETV costs as well.
Go ahead, finish up.
All right. So for the proposed budget at ETV, it's mainly made up of salaries and some services. So from salaries, we're looking at a request for 4% increase for roughly about a 3.5% increase in the hourly rate for each of the employees. And then we also see an increased number of hours over what we've seen in fiscal year 25. We see more hours coming in fiscal year 2026 with a lot of the initiatives that we have going on in the town. ETV operations, we'll see about 3.98% increase overall. Basically, all the other operational expenses, we kept at the same, so the pure increase to the department would be based upon those merits for fiscal year 2026 and the employees. And that's it for information technology.
Yes. So I have a couple. First of all, in your personal services, you have a stipend stipend line item for $19,714.
Correct.
Can you explain to us what the stipends are?
So the stipends are for the non-exempt employees, then they're non-union, and those are put towards their cafeteria plan. The cafeteria plan?
All non-union get the cafeteria.
Can you explain what that is?
That's where they get some money to put into either life insurance or a 457 plan. Only non-union get it, no union member get it. That's
So-
something that's predated me.
Kind of equal the playing field between the union and non-union.
True, and it's. yeah,
Good attempt.
Yep.
All right, because remember, people are
Right,
watching and they have
That's
their
right.
cafeteria, they're thinking lunch.
No.
So am I.
That's what
John?
That's also, it's not pensionable too, so it comes out, it's not counted toward your pension.
At retirement.
Okay, thank you. Next is the first slide you had where you combined some positions.
Yes.
And normally when we combine positions, we see a reduction. No, not that one, back one.
One more further back.
You had said you combined some positions and stuff,
Yes.
but it's gonna cost us $44,538 more.
Correct. So where that came from was the increase, the position that was fiscal year 2024 funded is the one that was combined with the admin assistant. So that was unfunded for fiscal year 2025. What we did is that year we used for going to training and being able to pick up that extra work, really basically show before you buy that you can do it. And the person certainly proved that they could do it. Has done a tremendous job in it. And looking at the additional technical responsibilities that have been taken on because of it, we warranted that this is still a cost that was less than a position similar to it prior in the department.
So you're merging it with a vacant position that wasn't funded.
Correct.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, that makes sense, then.
Can I say, this will eliminate any clerical positions in your department, correct?
Correct.
Kind of like what we did the town clerk last year, we escalated their responsibilities and requirements of that person. With this requisite training that we know is capable of, and then we're eliminating that clerical.
Now, are all position, or most positions in your department cross-trained?
Yes.
Yes, so if somebody's out on vacation or sick leave?
Yeah.
Okay. And then my last question would be for the ETV.
Yes.
In the last year, we have asked an awful lot of the ETV staff, thus the additional hours and stuff like that. And I have discussed this with Chris, with technology and ETV and YouTube and everything else that's going on, the town manager's website. I mean, at what point should we consider making this a full-time position for one of the people? Because, I mean, graduations, there are things throughout town, we can always use ETV staff.
What I would say, we've discussed this, I kind of feel build it first, staff it after. So I don't want to staff it and increase it. The new manager will come in. He may not want to continue all of the initiatives we have, or maybe the next council doesn't. I think we've given you a good blueprint for the future. I think it's on your radar. But what I would say is let's see after the budget, how we want to expand it, what Alex is willing to do. He does a superb job. And just know it's a placeholder that if we do that, the next manager, we expand it to do other things, that we would have to increase it. I didn't want to do it now in this tight budget, not knowing exactly. And then you do it, we don't expand it, or we actually maybe perhaps contract, and people will say, well, we've got this huge increase and we're actually doing less. So I just thought it prudent. It's for your consideration, but I think everybody is aware of the good work that Alex does and ETV. I think it would behoove us to expand it, but I think we should leave it to the next manager. But that's you're here now. If you want to fund it a little more now, that's certainly appropriate.
Okay, we will take that up with the new manager, but I know for transparency, almost everything we're doing is televised now. So there's got to be a point where
You increase it.
he has earned a
Yeah.
full-time
And in your
position.
deliberations, especially after this and John's question, maybe you say we're going to increase it by 10 or 20 now, so we have it and then keep us posted. But I wanted to be prudent since we have a lot of tough choices to make.
John,
Yeah, so, through the mayor to the town manager, so can I just ask you, what would combining this look like? Because, I mean, ETV is mostly like later in the afternoon, right? But what would the daytime, what would this position be if you were to create it now? What would it look like that is the noon or the 9 to 5 part, if you will?
Well, that's why I wanted to work. We really haven't fleshed it out.
Okay.
I think the demand, you're correct, is usually in the, because of the evening.
it couldn't be
But-
9 to 5.
Right.
No, I guess my question is, what's the other half of the job besides
Right.
the stuff that we already see? And I didn't know if you thought about that.
I haven't, I really couldn't
That's fine.
articulate it, so I
Okay.
said, let's wait.
Fine.
I mean, there's certainly additional technical assistance that could be provided, especially with the skill sets that are with the videographers. I know that there's a lot of sessions that are recorded for the schools that they've tried to fund other time slots for people to do. That would be an area of possibly being able to pick up the slack in there. There's also the capability to do many other programming. Again, I think it would be up to kind of what our marketing scheme is going to be. So if the marketing processing expands, this would certainly be the appropriate group of people to help.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if you had an idea in your
Well,
mind.
the one
or
thing,
not.
John, what I kind of did, and you've been there, you stood next to me at North River Street, we had that. We filmed it live. That was unique during the day. And then we did the highlight reel. We put it on. That is a very effective way to market the town. We did it at the business breakfast. So I imagine if we're going to be doing more of that moving forward, where we want those really good events, in particular, we're going to try to do streaming for the concerts. We're working on that. Not with Alex, but we might. So those are the areas I thought the vision would be to expand. That really would, we really get a big
Yeah, I mean,
bang.
that carve out that they did with Governor Lalonde was fantastic, and they took a large swath of video and really pieced it together.
Right, the highlight.
Again, like I said, it's more of a marketing tool.
So what I was kind of getting at, John, is at this point, none of us know how much time is he really putting in, because we don't see wetlands and planning and zoning and all the other things and the editing and stuff that goes on behind the scenes. So at some point, it's got to be more beneficial just to put him on full-time salary and, instead of the part-time. That's all I'm doing. I think he is a phenomenal employee. And if it's getting close to that point, he's earned it, so.
There's
Much
no doubt about
appreciated
that.
as well.
Yeah.
The consideration and also being, seeing that, that's great.
Anyone else for Paul? Mike? Oh, sorry.
Again, I guess I'm not in favor of doing any more full-time positions. To Chris's point, I want to see it. And there's look, I'm not saying anyone's not doing a good job. But again, I don't feel the need to stream the town 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and I'm sorry, I may be the opposite, I may be lost in the 80s when it comes to technology. But, and also, there's also a lot, we've talked about this. We have kids at the high school, what a great career where we don't have to pay someone benefits and salary. That just is, so, I mean, that's a future discussion, but, so with the job changes,
Yes.
will we have a job description before us?
Yes,
Right, because I'm all for letting folks take on more work, but we gotta make sure the job description corresponds with it, because if they don't wanna do the work and they have more money, we know we can't get the money back, so.
right. And this was kind of, the chicken and the egg. It's like, I presented.
Completely, I
to the
agree,
budget,
yeah,
if
but
it's
it's what-
okay.
yeah.
I do have a job description prepared.
That'll have to be Steve at some point, we'll have to approve, like, 2 new job descriptions, I just wanna make sure we close the gap on that, so. And you mentioned RFP, what will be going out to bid?
So there'll be probably a phone system that we'll be looking to replace. Our existing one's 15 years old. We'll be looking to do RFPs for any of our telecom services, any of our multiple year services for any of the managed services.
How many years is generally these we lease or they're purchased?
So there's combinations. So
Yeah.
one is more of a managed service, so those are typically 1 to 3 years.
Yeah.
If it has to deal with equipment, it's usually 3 to 5 years.
Got it.
Yep, so if there's anything tangible, it's 3 to 5 years.
And what, I think you've done this in the past, what would be helpful for me, again, is understanding how much technology your department touches and what really their roles are each day. I get, who's doing security, so then if, again, we're gonna hire someone at some point,
Right.
For me, that's what I need to tie
Like
in.
an org chart.
Something, right? Hey, this is what we're doing, this is how many systems we're managing.
Yep.
Because again, I hate to say, that's what we deal in the private sector.
Sure.
How many systems is someone working and, kind of what they're doing, that'd be very helpful.
Oh, yeah, we use KPIs for all of our systems and who's controlling what.
I know you have it, that's why,
Yeah,
if you get
certainly.
it back, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And Paul, so I'm gonna wanna make sure so you generate revenue, correct? So I wanna make sure in the budget, John, keep me honest, it says information technology fund revenue summary.
Yes.
Yes.
So what number did you show when you showed the Board of Ed number? I don't find it in the summary here. Is it,
It would be on the primary, and I believe it is.
shows 2.5 million? Is that what it is, technology services?
No, their contribution is 748,
You should have a revenue, theirs is a 750,000 something.
yeah, 448.
Right, so who does,
That's the transfer from, and then there's also a grant, which is, I think $120,000 that comes from the
E-rate.
state.
so John, educate me when it comes to general fund transfers into IT.
Mhm.
How just any service that you would transfer from the general fund into IT. So I want to make sure, when you say it's a transfer, it goes into IT's budget. I want to make sure I understand, if you don't mind.
Okay, so the way that works is you would see a like the last section of the general fund, the non-departmental
Yeah.
section of the general fund.
I have 3.8 million.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the transfer, that is the portion of wherever it's going, so whether it's IT in this case, that is the portion of the IT expenses that are paid for using tax dollars or general
So it's
fund.
not coming out of another department. So for example, if they're giving phone service to your department, that's a separate charge.
That's also in there as well, if it comes in, yes.
And so it's just strictly coming out of the general fund. If we weren't transferring, so I'm just not trying to, let's just say we weren't transferring, that money would be in fund balance, right? Technically.
Yeah.
But we're moving money from fund balance. And what does that cover, John? Just so I want to know.
We would be covering that expenditure, because these are expenditures that we
So it's
need
just
to.
their expense, their operating expense, you're saying? So what is the 3.8 covering? Is it their operating budget?
It's the portion of, so IT is what they call an internal service fund.
Right.
All right, so basically those are expenses that are shared by, all right, so some of it's the Board of Ed, they provide the service to the Board of Ed, and they provide the service to all of our individual
Yep.
departments. They also provide services to water pollution control, they provide services to the fire districts as well. Okay, so some of them, not all of them. But, so we charge the fire districts, they put
Got it.
some money in there, okay, to pay for the services they get from us.
How much is the fire district? Is it within that 3.8 million?
It is not in the 3.8, it should be, let me just take a look on,
And if we could, maybe just who
I
pays
can't
it?
change my
No
computer
worries.
because it'll,
John, you don't have to get tonight. Can you get who pays it? That's what who pays in what? I'm sorry, I know I'm not using the right terminology. What technology is IT providing that others are paying in for that use? Because we've had this debate for years. Should we open up our IT for people to pay in outside of, so they could use our IT service as a government service? I know there's rules, but if we're doing it already with, again, fire departments, again, I don't know why we're not looking to be able to sell our network or whatever word, I'm sorry. I know I'm not using the right terminology, to folks who are willing to, would be paid, who have to live within this, the security rules. I mean, again, another way of opening up a government for people who are interested in it. So I'm just again, I'm not gonna blame the point, we said this, I think, for like the last 5 years, but just curious, because again, just if you could, you don't have to get it tonight, if you wanna break it out.
Well, there should be a revenue page in there, okay?
Yeah,
That shows what the individual sources of revenue. So you'd have intergovernmental revenue, and that is that's I'll get it out, the grant money that we receive, E-rate. It's a grant from the state, and it's for certain IT services that are done through the Board of Ed, okay? Then there's charges for services, okay? That's the fire district piece.
Yes.
That's what we build on. Then you have the general fund transfer, and that's the IT fund, the internal service fund, that's their revenue, which is the expenditure side is what I was talking about.
You use that revenue to provide the service for the rest of the town government.
Yeah, right.
All right.
And then there's also a transfer in from water pollution control.
Right.
And from the public schools.
Is there anyone else other than the fire department? I mean, is the water department in? Is there anything, any of the utility that may be using our, I guess, network for that matter?
They're not yet.
I know. No, again, thank you. I appreciate it. Sorry for, I didn't mean to.
No, it's great.
Thank you.
Get you thinking.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know why we don't try to do it. And try to open it up, to see if people would wanna, it's a future revenue source.
The only issue I would have is from more of a security.
No, I understand, right, I know.
Paul's very good
Yeah.
on security. We have one of the better, I mean, our cyber risk policy is one of the, they give that, they sell that to us because of the service and the security that we have.
And my last question, sorry, email. So how often are we looking, so in the corporate sector, we've gone from Skype to Teams to whatever. How often do you folks, I know we've had our tablets, but is it simply Microsoft, or is that part of the RFP process?
As part of the RFP process, we look at Office 365.
Yeah.
And we also look at services that we can buy along with the state contract. So we get the same cost per license that the state does. So they're a much bigger, larger
Right,
purchasing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And instead if we just went with ourselves.
And how often do you guys change that roughly?
Every 3 years.
Every 3 years, got
Yeah.
it. Thank you. Again, thank you, appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Pisner.
Hi, Paul.
Hello.
All right, I apologize. My eyesight's not really great. Can you put the screen back up that showed the pie of the technical services so that we can break them up again? Because I'm looking at that number, and if I'm reading it correctly, it's like 2.5 million, almost 2.6 million for technological services.
Yeah, for 2.7 million are provided to town municipal related services.
Okay, so is there a breakdown though, like what goes to Board of Ed, what goes to EMT, what goes, isn't it, you see, and I
More
didn't.
small print, so
Okay,
small
so
print.
that's where
Go through
okay.
it again, Paul.
You know what,
Sure,
I'm
it is
gonna take
small.
a picture of it and then I'll have
That's
it,
okay.
and again, I apologize. My
So
eyesight-
looking at it from here, the far left is the 39%, which we provide that level of services to Board of Ed,
Okay,
so educational services. The sliver down here is for emergency services, about
Okay.
203,000. And then 57% is for town and municipal services that is part of our expenditures
Okay.
breakout.
what, and I'm just curious, because I'm looking at like 2023, we're going way back, and it was quite less, it was 1.7 million. What made the big jump up to, I'm just
This is
curious.
2023 till now.
Yeah.
Well, we've had a large increase in the number of devices that we've added to our network, for the expansion.
Is that more the Board of Ed having all the iPads and stuff in the schools?
It was, and also the town, we've increased quite a larger number of devices, and now we're somewhere between 8,500 and 8,700 devices active on our network. We've expanded locations, where our network utilization used to be, I think it was 3,200 ports, is now 6,800 ports. So we've seen a tremendous expansion of use of technologies, which are great. A lot of them has gone towards some of the wireless capabilities, and that has increased some of our expenses because everything is wireless, so you're not having to be tethered to something all the time.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of that comes from our infrastructure costs have gone up.
Cameras too.
Is the GIS included in this that they use? Is that software run by the IT department?
Yes, so we have GIS services that hold,
So that's part of that pie too,
Correct.
for the
Yeah, it's the-
municipality part?
yeah.
Okay. And just one other question, under technology equipment, what exactly do you have that's technology? I mean, is that just a breakdown? What,
So, okay, so.
700,000?
So, yeah, so we have 3 primary leases that we do, basically a 3-year lease every year we start. So we try to break it out a third, but it's basically on new technologies that are out and available each year. We add that to a lease. So three of those leases make up a large portion of that 700,000. There's also printing. So for any of our printing that we do throughout the town, that's in there. And those are pretty much 2 technology equipment pieces that are in there. Sometimes we do have to buy emergency services equipment that we buy out of there as well. So some high-end computers that are required for detectives or any of the polygraphs, things like that.
All right, thank you.
So it's fair to say that out of your complete budget, 1.4 million, 1.45 is dedicated to the Board of Education.
1.8,
It's small print.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it is,
Okay.
that's why I took a picture.
Yep.
Okay, Jeff?
Cameras, across the town in public areas, how many cameras do we own?
That, I don't know that exact number, that's more from public safety, but because they run on their own separate network. So,
But you guys oversee the camera system?
no, we do not.
Okay.
No, that's
You're not
part of,
involved in installing them or
no.
placing them in different areas? Okay.
What I would add to that, Mr. Russo, and I've talked to the chief and to Paul, what we're gonna do, we have the issue of the cameras come up, so when the budget's done, we anticipate first meeting in June, doing a presentation on just that issue. What is our camera system? What does it cost? What does it cover? What are the benefits of it? Because we had taken out money for a few new ones, and I know people have mentioned they should be in this playground, perhaps while at school, but that's different than the ones that a few weeks ago were in the intersections, looking at traffic calming and whatnot. So we're gonna do a full presentation, and that way you can consider it, and if we wanna add some cameras or money at that point, we know what it is, but we'll fully explain that, because I think there's a lot of unknowns out there by the council and the public. So we're gonna do that in June.
Sounds good.
Thank you
Anyone else?
very much.
Anyone else? Nothing? I thank you very much, Paul.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Excellent.
And we will move on to the building department presented by Chief Building Official. I meant the finance department presented by the Director of Finance, Jeff
I won't be
Wilcox.
offended. Okay, this will be short and sweet. So the finance department is made up of now 5 divisions. It used to be 4.
Excuse me 1 second, John, we're code 1800.
Yes, sorry.
Can you do 3 things at once, John?
All right.
Again, but.
No, this
Go ahead,
John.
John.
I know that John can.
So we have administration, which is basically myself and Becca. Becca handles all the finance-related sewer billing questions, concerns, and also any administrative assistant work that I need done. And we have the Treasury Division, that is our new Deputy Finance Director's Division, Heatherin. Heatherin is responsible for payroll, accounts payable, general accounting work, and all cash reconciliations and everything like that. Tax collection, obviously that one's pretty self-explanatory. When we separated the functions last spring, now we're gonna have separate divisions, so this was separate probably 15 years ago, and now we're going back to that model. And then the next one, what used to be combined revenue assessment, that's generally that's where they go out and value properties. Their main goal is to try to treat everybody, use the same consistent valuation method, so everybody's treated really the same way. They have a lot of statutory requirements as far as how they value properties. And there's a lot of training involved to actually get the certification necessary to do it. General services is mostly our purchasing. They review all of the requisitions that come in, make sure they're following charter requirements, make sure they meet, if they're using a state contract, would follow the requirements of the state contract. They also advertise, review any RFPs that we issue, and then handle the actual legal requirements of issuing RFPs. And then they follow up on reviewing the responses to them and summarize them and get them back to the departments. So for this year, we had most of my changes, 14,000. I'll go through the next page. I'll go through the individual reasons for them on each division. The total increase was $85,000, 4.63% increase. And so for the administration, it was salary increases of $3,400, health insurance of $5,500. And the salary increases are for right now, our union contracts are not, they're past their expiration date. So any union employee is budgeted as expiring in the FY26 budget for the individual divisions. I have calculated an estimate of what the union amounts will be, and I have those in a separate spot outside of the individual divisions. So that's not just for me, that's for police, that's for EMS, so when they talked about that they had salary increases, I have an estimate for what those increases are gonna be, so they're not gonna be coming back to you later on next year for an increase in the budget. So the increases for and audit fees was the other piece of mine, was for $5,000. Treasury, the salary increases were $4,400. Those are the non-union increases that were authorized last September or October, that you guys passed. When we passed those were budgeted separately by me, and so it shows up this year as an increase in the budget. So health insurance increased by $2,300. That was a choice, that's the combination of the overall increase in health insurance costs and a change in benefit election. Professional development increased. This one, I want to provide some additional training for Heatherin, because she's doing a good job, and she needs to get some additional training to get certified in accounting itself. she's got the mind for it and she really does a good job. Tax collection and revenue assessment, I put these together because most of the tax collector expenses on the prior page were split out from the assessment division. Combined, those divisions were just under $20,000. It was a 2.51% increase. The salary increases there were $8,500. Insurance was the big number because the tax collector position is currently vacant. So we budgeted that one as as a family plan rather than single. So that showed a big increase. Professional development went down by $5,000 here. Other professional services, we decreased by $25,000. General services, this salary increase here was mainly because when we did the 1% budget reduction for this year, I delayed hiring a replacement for Kathy who retired. And that's because most of I didn't really have something I could cover other than that. And then health insurance increases of $5,000. And those are my increases and that's my total changes.
Okay. John, again, can you explain your stipends?
Those are the non-union employee cafeteria.
Same thing.
Yep,
On all,
any
All
division
departments.
yes. We have a couple of non-union employees in revenue assessment. And we have myself, payroll person, and the deputy finance director are non-union in treasury.
okay. And then the insurance fund, where do we cover that in the budget for the entire town, being self-insured? Is that in your department or a different?
It is not, it is a whole separate fund. We generally have the insurance committee review the activity that is in there. It is reported separately in the financial statements, but we don't generally adopt a budget for it. We review what the activity is in the insurance fund. And then I'm talking about the health insurance fund right now. And then the share of that goes to the employees is, we decided what the increase should be for this fiscal year. And then that's included in that benefit number that you see. So that's the town contributes to that fund, kind of the same way it does for the IT fund.
So do we have a reserve at this time in that fund?
We do, but we went down a little bit on it. I can't change and look it up for you right now.
Yeah, we can provide that though.
But I can provide the number.
Right, but in this current budget, you're being conservative
Mhm.
to cover the cost of the
Yes,
insurance fund.
yes.
Okay.
John is always conservative.
Well, and I know Mike is on the committee and stuff, and nobody knows more about insurance than him.
Yeah.
But again, it's just something that we don't see, and it's kind of hard for us
Good
to ask.
So what
Absolutely.
happens is, we have a benefits consultant, Lockton. Lockton comes in and they review all of our health insurance claims and everything that we have during the year, all of our large claims, all that stuff. And they make a recommendation of based on what our claims are this year, they project it forward for next year, okay? And they give us a percentage of where that increase should be. A couple of years ago, it was zero. But the last couple of years, it's been, my wife does the same thing I do up in West Springfield, and they've had like 3 years worth of double-digit increases in a row. So the healthcare costs are increasing. So they give us that percentage, and then we typically tack on an additional amount. Number one, because we get that number early, and so it's potential that it could increase. And I don't wanna get here and say, guys, we need to increase the insurance. I wanna say, okay, we looked at it and we can potentially decrease it. We also tack on a little bit if we're short on the fund balance in that fund, then we, that gives us the money, that fund balance gives us the money to pay for claims. If our estimate is too low, we can go to that fund balance and deal with it in the next year. So it's not a crisis or any kind of emergency.
Right, but we're speculating on our next year's costs
Yeah, they
off
got
of previous years.
up of, yeah, previous years are projected of what they're seeing. They use a rolling average and, you know, what they see, these guys do this, they've been pretty good at
Right,
it.
but it's like the snow account. We go 10 years with no snow.
Yeah.
We don't budget for it and we get hit hard one year.
Yeah.
It wipes us out.
But yeah,
And similar to the same thing.
I think the town had learned its lesson, so we've addressed it. We have a good watchdog group that periodically, John informs.
That is
so
the
we make
whole
sure.
point,
Right.
is people have been asking questions of what happened and this and that. And I just wanna let everybody know how we've covered ourselves to try the best we can to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, John.
And Mike,
You know, I think it would be helpful after the budget is to have a benefits workshop. I think, to John's point, we haven't had, I don't think we've had changed our benefits in close to 10 years, which is unheard of in any other line, including in the public sector, not just the private sector. But at some point, these increases are going to continue to go up because of the nature of people utilizing the insurance. So it's something I think for the council or the insurance committee to start taking a look at benefit changes, because unfortunately, trend is in double digits across the board in pretty much every product, just for people, for some perspective. And I'm sorry, most industries, including the public sector, don't go 10 years without a benefit change. Yeah, just for some perspective.
Noted.
Yeah.
so under reports of special committee at the next meeting, Mike, can you make that
Sure.
recommendation? Because I think that the insurance committee, who's been involved with it,
Yeah.
really should take the lead on it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, no, I agree. I think.
we'll give you consensus to do whatever you need to, you and John, to look at the numbers.
And I think, Steve, we were thinking after the budget, have another insurance committee. Yeah,
We're waiting for.
because there's some other things we're working on as well.
Right. Okay.
So John, I'm curious, I apologize, but my curiosity getting the best man I was trying to do, is there a chance payroll could just explain, now you don't have to do it tonight, an explanation on how they're calculating FICA and Medicare, and how often, so when we there's a reconciliation process, right? Or is it, could you, just so I know, I'm sorry, so how often are we spot on, or how often are we under?
Social Security and Medicare, okay, those are, you're all aware of what they are.
Right.
But they come out after your health insurance benefits.
Right.
Okay? So what happens is, when we do our annual projection of what our salaries are gonna be, okay? The system, Munis will actually calculate that, assuming your benefits stay the same. Now, I try to catch most people and say, just take your total salaries, multiply them by 6.2% for the Social Security and 1.45 for the Medicare, because if anybody changes their benefits within the year, that amount of it is gonna change, okay? So your actual is gonna change, and what I'm trying to do is just, all right, let's, once again, yes, I'm being conservative on this. And I would rather than come back with 100 accounts on the year-end transfer, I'd rather bump that up. So most of the divisions actually do bump that up to 6.2% of total salaries. But what comes in the projection, sometimes I miss it. So
No, I appreciate the explanation, but maybe just a rough, how much we reconcile, you know.
And then as far as reconciling the,
Are we within 2-3%? I mean, what's your normal, right, there's a plus or minus maybe generally when you do these things? You should,
well, As far as, budget to actual?
Right, yeah.
on a-
That's what budget action.
Okay,
I
no,
mean,
I haven't
yeah,
looked
yeah.
at that, but I could look that up.
Fair enough, thank you, I'm sorry. It's just my intellectual curiosity, we go through this, we never ask any questions. And like I see it, like, it doesn't come in perfect no matter how good you are. That's why I wanted to ask. And I'm not suggesting you're not doing it the right way, just would like to learn. Curious too, and I'm sorry, there's another one. We're purchasing. Is there, what is our procedures? I would love to know, you don't have to give it to me now, but if we could, again, when they're paying out purchasing, are we making sure that, again, the bills that are some of the invoices? I mean, just curious, what are, procedures to make sure that an invoice is valid? And I'm not saying anyone, but you know what I mean? We gotta have some sort of procedures in purchasing. Just curious, if there's a question on something, who signs off on it? I don't know if we just had any procedures you could share at some point.
They do,
Yeah.
and they're very thorough because that delays a lot of our projects. because
Right,
They are,
So,
they are very thorough.
yeah, we'll provide that tomorrow,
Yeah,
John,
perfect.
because it's pretty
Yeah,
exhaustive.
these are, I think, easy ones. And the last one, John, this is, again, when it's time, revals next year, correct?
Yes,
I-
they're actually issuing an RFP.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's one, there's no way we just hire the same group that's Connecticut recommended after what this town has been through. Thank you for saying that, and I'm glad it's on TV, because John, I'm sorry, that's the only thing I have to be upfront with you, that matters to me, because that's exactly how we handle it. Look, it didn't work out, we're going to bid, let's see if we can get something better. So I appreciate,
I mean,
again, I appreciate that.
they were selected
I know.
at bid last
I
time
know.
too, so.
But hopefully, we have someone else out there. Yeah, let's hope someone out there, so thank you.
Bob?
All right, John, I gotta ask the audit, is that one audit a year? Or what, if it went up 5,000, I see, but we've gone
That's
from
Three
89,000.
different audits.
3 different audits.
Yeah, that's the annual, ACFR, they call it. It used to be CAPR, Comprehensive Annual Financial Statement, report rather. And then it's also the federal, single audit for federal grants, which most of the federal grants right now go through the Board of Education. Okay, so those are, they're any federal programs that they get money for. But then we also have a state single audit, so that's all the audit of all of our grant projects.
And have we always had that, or the jump was just for what reason in the last few years, since 2023?
That's always been that, and it's
always been 3 audits.
Three audits,
It's just-
yeah,
They
and
just
that's-
keep increasing their cost, their
I
charge.
mean, they're running into the same issues that we are. They can't keep staff either. And, so that they end up raising their costs, and that's, we try to do things, like with some of them, we do a lot of stuff electronically now. Although they do come out still, but they do a lot. The one company we had the most trouble with did most of their audit electronically. That was like 2 audit firms ago, right? Some of you will remember that.
All right, just one more question. Is George Young costing us on the printing and copying? Because we seem to increase quite a bit there. I just, I'm being a smart.
Printing and printing and copy, you're looking at probably,
The printing and copying went up. I don't know if it's George.
Both in line.
you're looking at, probably the tax collector and.
No, just on that admin.
An admin, printing.
It's the same numbers. It's just, like even copying's gone from $83 in 2023 to $1,000. It's not a big deal, just the ask copy. I'm just asking.
Yeah, I usually put in, and then, we pay, the copying fees that come in are for color copies and for, you have a set usage amount for each department. And if you use over that, we get to charge our departments. So, the rest of the copy lease cost, Paul gets.
Yep.
So in that, sometimes, I try not to use, frankly, I try to set my phone on black and white because I'm cheap, but.
Thank you, John.
It's also an expense when they produce the checks using the Nicker toner.
Right.
That's a very expensive toner.
Thank you.
All set, Bob? And for clarification on the audits, John, that That audit is not a full audit of the Board of Education.
That's not directed specifically at the Board of Education, no, but they do review their processes the same way. Now, we have a new audit firm for this audit, that they're working on now, so, they're looking at everything right now.
Including the Board of Education,
Oh, yeah,
the full board.
yep.
Okay, and do we have an idea of when that's gonna be completed?
I'm hoping the end of May.
The end of May. Okay, thank you. And Mike,
That's why you're right. And I think, John, again, just to be technical, the town has to follow the generally accepted accounting principles. Is that correct? When you file. The board doesn't necessarily have to, per state statute.
There are certain things, but
Right.
yeah.
And I think that what the mayor's saying is, I mean, it's a big look. We're not trying, the people need to understand how their money's being spent.
Yeah, the only main one is, that I know, I'm aware of is really that the excess cost grant can be posted to their expenses. So
Right.
it's, you got money coming in instead of money going out, it just nets and reduces the expense.
Keep correcting me if I'm wrong, the statute though allows a board to follow the same procedures as the town, correct? If they choose to.
I don't know
I
that.
thought that answer was yes, but no problem.
I don't know the answer.
I agree with that.
I think they can.
Right, I think
Should
that's,
they choose
right,
not to.
right, yeah.
All right, but just for clarification, because people were saying, we audit the board every year, that is not true.
Right.
It's just a piece of what it is, and we're still moving
Well,
forward.
they do review basically, they're looking, they take tests, they don't look at every transaction that we do
Mhm.
or every transaction that the Board of Ed does. They take a sample of it and then they review, they say, all right, are the department heads signing off on the expenses? Am I signing off on, or my staff signing off on it? When everything gets, to their question previously, we have a purchase order. Does the invoice match the purchase order? All right, so what we are receiving and paying for, does that equal what we were supposed to be, what was authorized to purchase? So if I'm buying 10 boxes of paper, all right, when that comes in, we only got 8 because 2 were on back order, okay? Next 2 come in, we get another invoice that was on that same PO, total of 10. We got billed for 10, and we paid for 10, and we paid for the price that they said that they were gonna. That was part of the state contract, or however the RFP or whatever we issued.
Right.
So they check on that. They don't do every transaction, they do a sample of all of them and make sure that the procedures are being followed.
Like an audit.
Right, and that's, so, but I mean, they do pick Board of Ed expenses too. So,
Anyone else? Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. Excellent work.
And we will move on to building inspection. Ray Stegler, come on down.
Thank you, Mayor and councilors.
hang on. For some reason I'm having trouble.
Thank you.
Was it?
That's your job. Go ahead.
6,200.
Play Jeopardy game.
Please do. I'm having trouble. Get locked out of it.
Does anybody know anything about IT in the room?
Well, I thought John was actually doing
No.
all
That's $100,000 off your budget right
Only Paul Russell, though.
I think I got logged out of my, that's what happened.
Sure happened when you change hats, John.
It's all right, John. Let
It's all that
Paul-
talk about
let
jelly
Paul
accepting
earn-
county
Let Paul earn his
See
money.
this
Show us what
alpine
he's
blonde
worth.
hair? That means I'm a dinosaur.
It's all that jelly accepting
I don't know how
county.
to do all this stuff.
Yeah, I think I got timed out.
I like that alpine blonde. I hadn't heard that before. There.
All right, now.
So Department of Building Inspection, I'm Ray Stedward, I'm the chief building official here. Just wanted to kind of,
John, can you move in here?
Just bring that, John.
there we go. Just some stuff we do, basically, the good times, the new construction stuff, the good stuff. We've got Trinity, we've got Eppendorf, we've got residential construction additions, those are just some of the things we do. Those are the good things we do. Sometimes we're there when it's not necessarily good times. We go out to buildings, we find violations, whether we're called from the fire department, or police dispatch when a car hits a house, things like that. We respond 24/7 to events when we're needed, to hopefully facilitate and help people out as part of our normal functions, and hopefully get them back in their buildings or get their buildings into compliance and keep people safe. This was our graph for 23-24. The permits and records numbers are just complaints versus permits. So we did about 3,600 permits, about 5,000 inspections, and we did about 1.1, 1.2 in revenue for 23-24. 24-25, year to date, which was a week or so ago, basically, we're a little bit down on permits by about 600, but it's not the end of the year yet. You can see we're down on revenue, but this year we didn't really have any of our big commercial projects. It was kind of a, I don't want to say average year, but it was a little bit down from past. We talked about that a bit on last budget year. Ultimately we decided not to add a position at that time. You decided, we talked about it. We were worrying about some stuff that might be coming up, and that just didn't materialize yet. Example of how permit fees are set up. They're $16.50 per 1,000 of construction value, which is about 1.65%. John can check my math. Some projects are fee exempt by ordinance. The town of Enfield, the fire departments, and the housing authority do not pay permit fees by our ordinance. So in the last 22 months, there was about 23 million in construction value that didn't pay fees, which would be about 380,000 in revenue. We pay 26 cents on that thousand to the state. It goes to training for building and fire officials, designers and contractors. Even on the exempt projects, we still have to pay that fee to the state. The concrete foundation replacement stuff is waived by state statute. We don't collect any money on those at all. We are a fee for service, and the service should be commensurate. The service should be commensurate with the fee. Fee for service should be commensurate with the fee given, or the service given, sorry.
You get what you pay for, is that what you're saying?
Kind of, sort of. I hope so. Permit fee examples, stuff that's gone back a little bit, 113 North Maple, which was the Win Stanley Eppendorf Agrimark building, that was about $755,000 in fees that they paid. Eppendorf proper at 175 Freshwater has paid about $603,000, excuse my punctuation. In the last year or so, 118 Hazard, which was the assisted living, paid about $125,000, to just kind of give you an idea of scale of projects and kind of sort of what they pay. Enfield Manor, which is the housing authority project that I think we finally just issued the building permit on, would have been about a $215,000 fee. Future fees, 1679 King Street, which we had a meeting on today a little bit, and that project is proposed to come in as of today at about 120 billion. So that number might go up, but that might be a realistic number or a conservative number that John would be proud of. North River Street, it's a big projects. They tend to overinflate them when they're coming in and try to make everyone happy. So same thing, I try to be conservative when I talk about that stuff. They're saying 40 million. At a $30 million project, it's a $495,000 building permit fee. The square, because we don't really know what that's going to be yet. Again, I think they were talking 250 million was a number I remember hearing. At 200 million, it's a $3.3 million permit fee, and 100 million, it's 1.65 million. You know, we've got a bunch of other projects cooking, happening. You know, Martin Brower's doing a truck repair garage, fueling station, truck wash. We've had a couple of meetings on that. I'm not sure when that's gonna come in for permit. I don't know if any of us know what's going on with Mass Mutual for sure these days. And I did just get word today that I think Felician Sisters is coming in with revised plans, so that permit might be imminent as well. That's just the top of the tip of the iceberg stuff that I know about, and obviously there's some other big stuff out there. This is a status quo budget. Basically, this was just our mandated union raises, things like that. Nothing changed here in my everything else. So 2% of my budget is not people. That's the everything else part of my budget. And so that makes it difficult when things increase and we can't really adjust anymore. So that would end up with a flat funded status quo budget. That would be a 3.1% increase. But as we talked about last year's budget, you know, at some point, these projects are gonna come home to roost, and we need to provide that service. And this is what that looks like with an added inspector, added assistant building official. Basically, it's about $157,000. There's a little bit of everything else in there because we're at our limit with education and all that stuff. And if we add a person, we have to do about 30 hours a year in education. So there are certain other items that we're basically zeroing out at the end of the year that we would need to pump up a little bit. So that number's a little bit more than a person, but not much. But it ends up being a 20% number just because people are such a big part of my budget. So as we discussed last year, you know, was risky holding it off, but I think that was the right decision. I don't know that we can do that again this year. The King Street project is looking at a July submission from what I know. The North River Street project is looking at a September submission. You know, and those are big projects. I don't have a timeline on the square, on the Woodsonia project, and all of the other smaller, medium-sized stuff we have. If we, you know, I don't think July is too early to add someone, because if we get someone in and then we ramp up slowly as the mall progresses or as the square progresses and things like that, the longer I can have someone in and hopefully train them, because it's getting hard to find experienced people. We had a hard time filling Paul's position, or our last vacant position, and we actually had to go out and repost. So it was a challenge to get someone in that was licensed. We're trying to figure out other ways to make that work, whether it's adding an entry-level job description, creating something like that, and creating an entry-level position at a lower rate and train someone more, you know, trying to figure out better ways to solve that problem. But part-time doesn't work great because people come up with problems on Tuesday and then they're not here on Wednesday to solve them, or when the calls or complaints come in, it gets to be complicated, but that's another avenue we could possibly look at. And, you know, just a note on those larger projects, you know, we get paid up front, we get that revenue up front, but, you know, sometimes it's a 2 or 3 year project, or in the case of larger projects, maybe even longer than that to do, you know, and that's kind of what we're finishing out some of those bigger projects this past year. And now hopefully we're ramping up for the, our next big uptick in projects in development here in Enfield. And, you know, everybody loves a pie chart. Salaries is, you know, is most of it, 2/3 or 3/4 of it And then benefits are the next, and as I said, the everything else is 2% or less on my budget. That's it.
And I'll just, when he says everybody likes pie charts, he means me.
I like pie charts.
Well, I like them because I think at a glance, so we try to be uniform. Maybe the next go around, you won't see any pie charts. I would just like to say, to Ray's point, we asked him again to be absolutely transparent on what his needs are. I will just tell you as of today, breaking news. I spoke to Greg Baca, who's the lead developer over at 33rd River. Their architect is almost ready with the floor plans for their apartments, which is exciting. They're moving forward on schedule, as Ray said. We've been speaking with Sony people on the square every single day, various departments. They still are slated hopefully for late summer, early fall. That's going to be reality. And today, and we won't say anything more, but it's now in the public domain, that Adam Winstanley Enterprises just sold 35 Bacon for $20 million to Amazon. So that's reality. So there's going to be movement there. There's going to be movement also at the Metro. There's a lot that's going to happen. So we wanted to at least preview that and say, hey, if we need somebody, consider it, because once this takes off, as Ray said, when you try to recruit and then train, you're sort of trying to catch up. So let's just see how it goes. But those projects are as real as they could possibly be. Thank you, Ray.
All right, Ray, can you back up 2 slides, please? Right there.
Yeah.
So that 157,678, the delta.
Yep.
So that would include 1 additional employee request?
Yes, and that had a little bit of, said education and whatever is in there, because code books and stuff like that we're maxed out on now.
And does that also include the 3+% increase for the rest of the department?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
not just the employee, that's the total.
And that's why I want to be clear, we're not paying
Right.
building
What's the
officials
cost of-
157.
What are you anticipating? I think everybody should know, especially at home, because that's shocking, and that doesn't reflect the cost of that position you're
Yeah,
talking.
so-
What is that with benefits?
So you would certainly minus the 24,000 right off of that, that's the status quo, and so that cuts that down to 130. I think the assistant building officials in this next upcoming contract is like 88,000 salary or something like that. And then the benefits, I don't know off the top of my head what they go for, so that's part of what pushes that up there, certainly. And that's why, we talked about, one, the inability of finding properly licensed and experienced people at that price point and whatnot, the possibility of creating some kind of entry-level inspector position to get an untrained person in, pay them obviously less, and bring them up as we go. It's not as simple as we would like it to be. And I'm not opposed to that concept, but it's just a work in progress.
Don't we find in circumstances where we do that, we spend all the time and energy training these people, and it happens with police officers too. Soon as they get up to speed, somebody comes and steals them from us.
Yeah, there is and going to be a lot of that. The building official community is a pretty small community, so there's, a fair bit of poaching. I tried to poach a couple people for the last position, but, the pay was fairly neutral for them and the commute was a little too far.
I think my last stint, we poached Jill.
So, yeah, like I said, I'm always trying to have the best department I can for the town and to help people the best we can. They said, what that comes out to be, I'm always trying to think of new creative ways to solve the problems for our customers and work with our customers. And whatever I can do to help them out, that's what I want to do.
Well, it's day and night difference. I mean, I remember what the old department was like. And Ray, you pulled off a miracle. And I know when there's issues, you get right on top of it yourself and you take care of it. And I want to commend you and the rest of your staff for a job well done. Thank you. Mike.
So again, I'll consider that. I think what would help, right, as we talked a little bit about, maybe you can go back in your presentation, show how much revenue you have generated. Again, I know everything's rolled up for a budget purpose, but since 2020, I think we've averaged roughly, again, each year, and if you have it there, but that's
That's year to date.
But I'm saying each year, So for, when
Also
you, so
chronologically.
basically you can show, I'm pretty sure you could show that the revenue that's being collected. And I know back in 21, it was more people doing some work around their homes. I remember it's just even some details, so you can see actually that the revenue collecting is basically covering the cost of your department.
I think it was.
I'm saying you're missing a great way of showing.
Yeah,
what
I
you bring to the
think,
town.
I think the year before this, it was like 1.8.
Right.
We had a bunch of stuff that year.
If you could maybe put the last 5 years, let everyone know this is how much your department's collecting. And so if we do hire another person, well, it's justified, right? That's all. I don't know if we can do that, John, break it out, add it, it'd be great.
Yeah, I can take care of that.
Thank you.
Well,
All set, Mike?
Yeah, thank you.
Bob?
Good.
Nothing? Anybody? Again, thank you very much, Ray.
thank you.
Tip-top department. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, Ray, and I will echo that. In many towns and in ours previously, we had nothing, they get nothing but complaints and delays and, in this department, I get more compliments on Ray and his staff and the building inspectors than we get complaints, and that's remarkable. So thank you, Ray, and your folks.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we are gonna move on to the Director of Public Works, Donald Nunes. This is a big one.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everybody. I would have loved to introduce you to Eric Wykander, but he had a pre-planned vacation and he is luxuriating in Key West somewhere, fishing and doing some really fun things with his family right now.
Thanks, Donna, we all really
I know,
appreciate
I
hearing
appreciate
that.
So Eric's previous employee was the Southwick, Massachusetts. He was a facilities director for the Southwick Regional School System. So he's got his stuff together, and it's going to be a real benefit to the town. So our current organizational chart, we have director, that's myself. We have a vacant deputy director of capital project administration. We have yet to find somebody that can fill that position. Eric just started about 3 weeks ago. Our assistant director, which takes care of the highway maintenance and RRM divisions, is vacant right now. We have Rick Davenport is fleet. Mark Garr is our facility manager who does building grounds and custodial services, and Todd Mathewson is our WPCF superintendent. So we have 140 people at FTEs right now, 7 divisions. Right now we only have 3 supervisors, direct supervisors such as Mark, Rick, and Todd, and with add in the 2 of us, Eric and I, we took total management right now of 5. So I provided some FY25 retrospective slides, and the only reason I could do this is because of really everybody sitting at this table, starting with the mayor, deputy mayor, all the councilors, Chris and Steve. There's been a lot of difficult decisions about what projects to bring forward, how to prioritize them, when to prioritize them, and where to find the funding and the like. And without everybody at this table, I wouldn't be crowing about all these projects that we have here. So again, town hall renovations, with the security, the bathrooms, EMS, we did the doors, generators, reels, cord reels inside, and we also had B&G do a complete refresh of the inside, painted everything, cleaned up, and really kind of polished as much as we could for their building. And we have the lovely footbridge at Freshwater Pond. We dredged the pond, 810 Enfield Street. That's some of the work that we'll be seeing pretty soon when we coming over. Next week, we're putting the final rugs down, and we should be wrapped up by the end of next Friday for that project. We have the biggest, littlest bridge in Connecticut, the South River Street Bridge, and we have some more stuff for 810. Doing some work at the high school, changing lights, and yes, that's Butch way up there at the top of that light bulb. Really? Yes. Our lone Butch, we gotta keep him safe. That was kind of risky for me because we only got one Butch. So we also have the high school field projects, which we're gonna be the clay will be all removed tomorrow and be nearly wrapping up that project. And again, B&G has constructed a bunch of blue rooms at JFK and also at Crandall. We all remember the little dig, just another primer. That was what was inside that pipe next to the donut shop. And again, some more work over here than the second little dig at Simon Road. And we actually took advantage of that, and you folks gave us some emergency funding to go actually do some work while we were offline, we were able to do this set of valving and this set of work here while the station was down. So now we don't have to do that again when something goes wrong over there. And of course, our crown jewel right behind you is Higgins, and we also have Powder Hollow Park, which looks really beautiful considering one season of growing. So now looking forward, looking for, again, more vehicles. Grapple truck, our other one that we have now, is almost 30 years old, looking for crack sealing. We have a big emphasis this year on signs, so we're asking for to make sure that our signs are up to code and are meeting safety standards for visibility and the like. We've asked to do the Alcorn School gym completely over, the boiler at Memorial. We have two boilers at Memorial. One is completely down and the other one has 6 out of 10 sections leaking right now. We're also looking to do Alcorn School, the safety surfacing at the playground, and we're gonna be doing some mandatory HVAC inspections per the state at the high school. What they have to do is go measure every single unit ventilator, every single thing, make sure the flow is right. That's just all part of the new standards. And we also need to replace the front locks over at the Eagle Academy. They are in difficult, deplorable condition. We're working on do that. Also some more pipelining for storm sewers, which has really, really helped us out tremendously, and water treatment for all of our boilers.
And I'll just add that all of those items, perspective, are included in our CIP budget. It's very difficult with the number and the demand and request. We have to prioritize, but all of those that you just saw are included in our budget.
So here's a roll again of all of our divisions. WPC is separate. They had a very modest increase of 0.18. So the other 6 divisions total $378,256 for an increase of 2.02%. The lion's share is disposal costs and insurance. Everything else has kind of been static and kind of stayed the same for the most part, but again, our disposal costs and our insurance costs are what is driving those numbers. So what I'm gonna do is go through each division really quickly. So this is admin and engineering. We had a health insurance increase of not 16%, but 21, because the previous assistant director had a +1. And so when we budget for that new position, we have to budget for the family plan. So that's why it jumped up a little higher, 21.37. It accounts for the assistant director, funds the capital projects director, but deputy director, I'm sorry. And it accounts for the health and dental. Just the fast facts. Through the ROSE program, we did 3.48 miles of reconstruction. So from this building to the mobile gas station on Route 5 South next to exit 46 is 3.48 miles by walk. That's how actual far of reconstruction we did. 1.32 miles of concrete sidewalk. Now the cured in place is the same thing that we used at the Little Dig, but it was for drainage purposes. We have over 4,000 feet and we've done well over 20 projects so far. B&G, the biggest driver here is now that we have an RFP, we have a company on board that's going to PM all of our boilers across schools, town, every single thing that we can get back on that. And that's where that annual cost comes in at $179,000. Health insurance went up 71. Now, to fund that, we did not fund the plumber position. We've had a difficult time finding people to do that job at the current position, and Steve wants to elaborate if we can. We also saved some money on fuel costs, right? Last year we did $3.50 and $4 for diesels, and this year it's $3 across the board, so we're saving. So we have some savings there. But the biggest thing why we were reducing B&G by $3,672 is the removal of the buffer that we put in last year for electricity. It's a huge number because at the time when we were going through budget, we knew that Eversource was increasing the rate, so we bumped it there, but we don't know what's going on. So right now we're on track for not that much of an increase right now, and it's working out a lot better. So 1.325 million square feet, that's how much acre, that's how much building space we maintain. 250 acres plus or minus of school grounds, 150 parks, municipal buildings. B&G plows 125 town roads, 85 town sidewalks, and maintains 45 parks, 14 playscapes, 1 pool, and also, we all know the town and school festival supports for everything. Custodial, health insurance, primary, again, that's pretty much across the board. Supplies went up. That was just, again, you folks gave us some more funding a couple weeks ago. It does fund 54 out of the 57 positions, and it does increase the custodial supplies. So again, some more aspects, 1.32 million square feet to clean. And I just wanted to show you some things. I was floored when we did this exercise. So these liners, we're at 234,500 liners right now that we've used to date, these trash can liners. These roll towels, this size here, 5,580 of these have been used so far. Toilet paper, here's on the phone. 13,596 rolls of this. These hand towels, these are newer hand towels, 4,356. Each one of these is 410. So doing the math, so far we've used 1.8 million towels this year, and also 8,000 boxes of facial tissue. So just a little, amazing how much product on the paper side we've used. And 650 gallons of floor stripper and 500 gallons of finish. Fleet, parts went up a little bit because we removed the inflation adjustment that was part of it. They maintain 450 assets for 19 town departments. We also maintain the DPW and WPCF fuel sites. Rick invoices 29 different town, fire, and external customers. So once they get fuel, he has to separate all that out and he bills them accordingly. And in 2024, at 2,199 work orders to repair vehicles. And without fleet, keeping them running, keeping police, keeping ambulance, keeping all of us going, they're a really key department, or division, I'm sorry. Highway, health insurance is the primary thing. We saved about 10 grand in fuel. Believe it or not, this winter, 15 snow and ice events. It didn't seem like a winter, but we responded 15 times this year. We had 78 after hours calls already this year from July 1. 2 severe weathers, events, 85 catch basin repairs, cleaned over 4,000 catch basins in town. We have almost 6,000. We cleaned almost 4,000, or 4,000. Patched over 1,000 potholes. You can see there we got a lot of things. The other interesting fact that I think is really important is our roadside mowing. It takes 118 miles, and we do that 4 times a year for that roadside mower. And we also had 33 evictions so far to date, which we have to maintain. They come to DPW, we put them in our Connex boxes, and we have to dispose of it. We have to go do all that with them. We have to advertise and go do all that to get rid of it. RRM, disposal costs, and again, health insurance, primary drivers. We're able to save about $54,000 in fuel because of the cost difference, so that really helps. But here's some interesting facts about where our garbage is going. We've had 10,005 tons of trash, MSW's municipal solid waste. Recycling, again, 2263. We have 106 bulky pickups this year, or to date. The additional gray barrels that you folks raised up a little bit to $140, they have already bought 514 since January. Additional brown barrels of 34. Now, household hazardous waste, that was a complete success for the residents in town. It was received well, it was run really well, and I really give props to the staff that was out there. We had 379 residents come through in that amount of time, and 588 units. So a unit is 10 gallons or 10 pounds. It doesn't matter, it's one or the other. So if you do some math, that's a lot of household hazardous waste that was collected and not found on the side of the road and the like. 248 tipper repairs, 173 deliveries, and we had 18 illegal dumpings so far where we have to clean up in special response. A WPCF doesn't fund one operator position. It accounts for the sludge disposal. That's the primary driver here. You folks just gave the bid waiver from the NDC, sorry, from $415 to $450, and that represents that increase there. Now, these facts blew me away when I was talking with Todd about this. You are reading that correct. We released 1.7 billion gallons of water, or treated water, into the Connecticut River. No violations. We had no releases.
Right, billion, not
Billion, yes. They've processed 10,908,000 pounds of sludge and brought it to MDC. Removed 1.7 million pounds of BOD is biological oxygen demand, and TSS is total suspended solids. It's inorganics and organics that make it into the system, and we took that out as well. Another thing that most people don't realize how much WPCF does is a call before you dig. We've had almost 1,700 requests from different contractors, everybody, to go mark out where the sewer lines are. Tremendous amount of time and effort that goes into that because of the liability with it. So there's a lot of fact checking, a lot of maps and the like. 68 confined space entries, video inspections. This is all part of our CMOM program, capacity management, operations, and maintenance of our system. 22.19 miles of videos. Sewer main cleaning, 26.02 miles as well. Everybody loves a pie chart for Ray and Chris. Nothing much has changed. We went.
And Gina.
And Gina, I'm sorry. There was a slight little change. We had our salaries went down 2% and our benefits went up 2%. So that's where the gain. So as I sit there and thank all you folks, I want you to enjoy the beautiful Higgins Park sign. And this is an aerial photo from Trevor that he got his drone during the setup of the Enfield High School, just to show you how intricate and how massive of a scale the setup is that we do for graduation. So.
And before questions, I would just like to make a comment. I thank Donald for his exemplary presentations, not only the budget, but all year long. And I want to share with you, and I know from the tenor of our questions on stipends and other things, we're trying to answer to our residents, what do these departments do? IT is a little difficult, finance is a little difficult, but I'll tell you something, and I've looked, there are very few towns in their budget that gives the information that Enfield does. I'm extraordinarily proud of the budgets we present. If you look at the police, EMS, library, public works, everything we do is there for the public to see. If you want it, if somebody says, well, what do they do at building and grounds? Look at the budget. If you ask for the police, how many stops? Where does it go? What are we doing? I am telling you, it's the most incredible amount of services that this town provides. So I appreciate when you ask questions so that our residents will know. And I'll just tell you, we've, over the years, go to our website. We've done more special presentations on how do we determine the quality of roads? How do we index them? All of the different things that we do. How are streets plowed? Who goes first? Who goes? All of that's there for our residents. So please, when people ask you, direct them to that. We've probably done, in my time, 50, 60 special presentations from the DEA agents to FBI. We've covered them all. But I just am very proud of our directors that we give a lot more detail. It takes longer. You know, other places they come in and say, this is the change. It's 2% increase and that's it. A resident in Enfield can go just even to the budget presentation and pretty much know what every department is doing.
I'm going to ask the same question, Donald. Stipends?
Director to deputy directors.
Okay, and that's for
The cafeteria plan,
Cafeteria.
same thing.
non-union.
Okay. Any questions for Donald? Bob?
Sorry, Don, just look, you said on the plumber, you took that off, so we're not looking for a plumber anymore, or you just removed it from the budget?
I removed it. And that's one of the years, when I remove it, I want to be transparent. We need it, but we can't find one. And in this year's budget, I've got to be realistic. So I don't, again, we're very open with our budgets. When we add something, we tell you when we're going to remove it. So if we were to find somebody, we would come back, but it's almost been impossible. So I wanted you to be aware, we have a need, but we just can't find somebody to provide the.
What if we were to separate, because it's plumber and HVAC, right?
They're two separate positions.
Oh, they are two separate.
And electrician. All the skilled trades are very difficult to find. line.
Right, but I thought we were trying to find one that had two separate.
No.
That's a unicorn.
Just, and one other question on the bulky pickups, those are paid for pickups, right?
Correct.
Those are- okay.
All set, Bob?
Yep,
Mike?
thank you,
I'll
Don.
be very quick, Donald, thank you, great presentation. Again, I think great, shows people what we're paying for. When you, crack sealing, when we do it, when the PCI, when we establish our PCI, again, I learned over the years, payment condition index, with that, I remember one of those. Does it help, is there an estimate how extends the life of that road? So say we do a road X, like we're crack sealing as opposed, as we get to the next road referendum. If we've been able to document that it extends that road, you know what I mean?
Typically 2 to 4 years.
Does the PCI go up, or does it kind of
No,
stay the same?
it's always deteriorating, but it's holding the condition that it's at, so it's not really getting any worse. It's kind of keeping the condition as is.
And so how many roads did we do with this year with the crack seal?
Oh,
If you don't, you can get back, yeah. So I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's another part of the road referendum, that we do actually keep, this is sort of, it's not a referendum, but it's a
no,
plan. Right.
that's through it's funded through capital.
Right. But it's also that we do some maintenance on roads that we're spending all the taxpayer money. I think that's important. Thank you. How much do you estimate for 4th of July that DPW?
I don't have it. I don't.
No problem. You get back to me
It
too.
crosses multiple divisions, you know.
If we get it, I mean, that's been, we appreciate it. And then last thing, you mentioned the barrels. Is recycling at the same cost to dispose as regular trash, or is it still slightly less?
Recycling is higher than MSW right now.
So, if I could, I don't know if we do this in the budget, we do it outside. I think we, just like we do the gray barrel, we should be charging for anything other than one blue barrel, in my opinion. Because now it's cost more than regular trash. I see there's homes with like 6, I mean, I'm all for recycling, but some homes got 4 or 5 of them out there. And I think we have to consider that as a council or as DPW, because it's now costing more to dispose as opposed to regular trash. We shouldn't be giving all those barrels away for free. Thank you. Again, great presentation. Thank you.
Anyone else? No? Seeing none.
Thank you, Donald.
Cindy.
Thank you.
This is the one.
Yeah.
Cindy is number.
Your section.
2 seconds, and I'll pull it. I have. no section on this one.
These are separate.
I know, that's why, so there's no section, well, it's 4,000, but there's a bunch of fund revenue in there, so I would start a report though.
Okay, everybody ready? You have it, section 4,000?
Good evening, bringing up the rear after riveting presentations around finance and infrastructure and roads and privacy issues. I'm here to talk about people. So it's a little bit of a different approach. I do want to start, I don't always get the opportunity, I want to recognize our.
First, introduce yourself.
I'm sorry, Cindy Guerrieri, Director of Social Services.
Thank you. We all know you, a lot of people, but I want to make sure people watch.
Thank you. I want to recognize our management team. I don't always get the opportunity. Karen Edelson is our Senior Operations Manager. Amy Morales is the Operations Manager around Child, Youth, and Family largely. Joanna Cornwall is our Clinical Care Coordinator, overseeing all the social workers and caseworkers. And Andrea Mashak is our Grant and Performance Manager, keeping us all accountable. So, and thank you to the rest of the staff. We're about 90 staff strong, broken out into 5 divisions. Here's the down and dirty. We are a little bit of a different department in our revenue streams. We'll talk about that in a minute. But overall, the percent changes across administration, adult and elderly, child, youth, and family care coordination, and community initiatives is driven by salaries and benefits. There are no changes to non-salary, there was actually a slight decrease in our non-salary budget. The difference is there are 4 market adjustments. In administration, the clinical care coordinator has absorbed more responsibilities, is the lower paid of our managers, and this equalizes that. The amount is, I can't remember the amount, 10% of that amount of the overall change. So it's not a significant change, and we want to retain the really good stuff that we have. Adults and elderly, so here's an interesting, the biggest impact on budget and on salary was the Teamsters contract. So it was just negotiated, and it was a year later. So you're seeing a 2 years worth of increase in this budget. The biggest increase, however, are 2 benefit packages. So somebody that didn't have a benefit package or zero, they took family, and then we have a vacant driver, and we have to budget at family. So about 65,000 of that 103 is benefits. Transit is broken up into Dial-A-Ride and Magic Carpet. The town has always covered the majority of the cost of Dial-A-Ride, and there are some small grants that support it. Magic Carpet has been funded 100% by Connecticut DOT since inception in 2012. That includes vehicles. The town has never had to purchase a vehicle. I shouldn't say never, maybe the very first Dial-A-Ride. Other than that, there was a great group of citizens that formed the bus committee fund, and they fundraised for a while. I have the benefit, I still have some of those resources. Whenever we get a new vehicle, we're applying to the state. They pay 80%, we have to pay 20%. So far, over more than a decade, we've been able to meet the 20% with the bus committee fund money, which is donations. The most recent Dial-A-Ride vehicle that we got in the fall, we only had to pay $175, period. The state picked up the rest. So that number in Magic Carpet, the town has not had to resource. With the increase to the Teamsters union contract, it was a significant salary adjustment. However, we were able to maneuver within the grant guidelines, and the cost to the town is going to be less than $10,000 to absorb a significant increase in salaries. So that tries to put that in perspective. A tiny piece of the increase in adult and elderly, that's where our food nutrition program lies, and our food nutrition manager had a salary increase. She covers the food program at both ECDC and at Mark Twain. We had a slight decrease in funds, a grant fund for the adult and elderly food program, but so far with our food nutrition manager, she's done an excellent job at researching, purchasing, and maintaining so far all of the meals that we've been accustomed to do. We're still doing them even without, it was about $6,400 reduction. Child Youth and Family is another significant, as you can see, that's our largest division. Our Early Childhood Development Center, ECDC, funded significantly by the state, and over the past several years, ARPA funds were used, you'll see in a second, but none of those funds were used for staffing, but the grants, they increased, and they increased it based on enrollment. And our center serves infants all the way through school age, with the largest school age program in the state that is state resourced. With all of that, the state is also going through a total redo of the structure of early childhood education, streamlining 3 different programs into one. We have an increase in funding from that, but a decrease in funding for school readiness because that got rolled in. Our net increase in revenue from the grants is about $56,000. We also have a significant increase in client fees because we have a phenomenal bookkeeper that came in and kind of helped clean things up. And it's not an additional burden on families, but we did have to do an increase, I think, a year or so ago. But we're also collecting more from Care for Kids, another state subsidy. So with all of that, the overall impact of all salary and benefit increases is only 3%. It's a huge savings. Care coordination, that is our team of social workers and caseworkers. The increase, there are actually many union positions in there, if not all of them. They're up for contract negotiation next year. This increase is all around benefits. Again, people switching plans from either none or one to family. Community initiatives, a slight reduction, and that was essentially, the council had decided to decrease a little bit on the grants that we give out to community members. And those community members that we are able to give some funds to are all in support of what our department is trying to do, to make sure that we're all moving in the same direction, increasing our impact with the dollars. What I do want to point out this issue, right? So it's a $314,000 increase, but we have 3 different revenue streams. The impact to general fund is $109,966 or 3.9%. I heard everybody likes a pie chart. So this is really a comparison again of the 25-26 revenue by source. I do want to point out 64% of revenue for the department is funded by grants, fees, and donations. The town resources 36% of our overall budget. This also shows you there's hardly any change in revenue, but it was between grants and fees and donations. That's kind of what I was talking about in our early childhood program. But there's no change to the general fund percent-wise. And then again, expense by type as everyone, the salaries, benefits, and non-salary. There was 1 percentage point change between the salaries and benefits. Salaries go down a little, benefits went up a little bit. This is what I wanted to point out for our ECDC. Over the past few years, we've spent $526,993 with ARPA funds to purchase capital equipment that we are required to have per state licensing and national accreditation. So if we didn't have that money, we would have had to have gotten the money from the general fund to pay for these things. The electric panel alone, our staff were working in really hot conditions in the summertime. The air conditioners in the window units, they would go off because the electrical panel would blow. So we were able to purchase a new one. Everybody stays clean and happy. Equipment, a sanitizer. This is like an industrial sanitizer for toys and thingies and all that kind of stuff. Again, we wouldn't have been able to afford that without the state dollars. Part of the money also went in support of program. Again, only one-time expenses. We've never used any of this to create positions or fund positions. The state did provide stipends for positions, but that was a one-time thing. So now this is for Ms. Councilor Ludwig.
So this is 4 years in a
This is what
minute.
you've
All
been waiting for. 2 years ago, council approved us purchasing a data collection, performance management, quality improvement system for the department. There hadn't been one. And so we had, I mentioned Andrea earlier, she's a party of one in working on designing it. We had to build it from the base, train staff in it. And then we can do now customized reporting. And so she has to build all the customized reports. So at a glance, 2024, these figures represent approximately 7,500 residents that we have interacted with in these categories. This is kind of our workflow, our front office at Alcorn, and then it does include some from Family Resource Center as well. Next year, we're going to be bringing on our ECDC to track all of their phone calls. This is just how many touches. The top reason, so sometimes people call, they walk in, they want information, they want help, they start in our front office, and they are logging all of these calls and by type. The top 3 basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, they want assistance, financial assistance, and then older adult supports. We get a lot of calls from adult children calling on behalf of their elderly parents that are living by themselves and they need some help and support. what action gets taken. We refer them to staff for follow-up, or we can sometimes provide them information over the phone or in person. Their needs are met and they go to wherever we refer them and connecting them to outside agencies. The next step in the process from these referrals go to our care coordination team. This is an unduplicated count. So far, these are unduplicated counts. The referral sources, we log again. We have our first responders, 547 from first responders, 815 self-referrals, and 350 community referrals. When we talk community, the categories are school, family, friends, and healthcare providers. So those are where we're getting the referrals from. Top reasons are protective custody. Those are the PC referrals we get from PD. And then a lot of referrals, as you can imagine, housing and homelessness. In this economy, we are seeing an increase, especially people that are living in their homes and they can no longer keep them up or afford them. And then mental health is another top reason for referral. So then our social work team starts to work with them, developing a plan and goals that they need to want to meet. In addition to these services, we run program, right? We try to do a lot of programs for socializing, for building capacity, for youth development. And we do have it across age ranges. The most significant age range of service program 19 to 64, but we have a lot with our senior 65 and over and our early childhood. Distribution more female than male, but still almost like an even split. And then the top programs people are coming for, homeowners or the renter's rebate, our Family Resource Center Learn to Play groups, our ECDC, the enrollment there, we're always full with a wait list, and our youth center. Other services that we provide, 42,675 rides. That's based on Connecticut DOT definition, which is a one-way. And so that's broken up between our Dial-A-Ride and Magic Carpet. For Dial-A-Ride, we do have membership available for people 65 and older or disabled. And then our staff have to be trained and skilled in the mobility assistive devices and wheelchair lifts. So because the need is there for our 186 members. We've had 67 event participants. That is a duplicate count. What it means is one person could attend more than one event. A sampling of events, we do backpack day. At Asnuntuck, we're there for orientation. We go again on Fresh Check Day, which is a good focus on mental health and wellness. The police department's National Night Out, we're there. Food security outreach, we're outreaching to Food Shelf, Loaves and Fishes. And then school open houses were present to give out information of the services that we have. The Enfield Together Coalition kickoff event and parent workshops. So that's kind of a variety of things that we provide. Meals served, 158,000 and broken out, ECDC, Head Start, and STEAM. We do provide all of the meal service, creating all the meals, distributing all the meals, and the Board of Education gives us funding towards Head Start and STEAM classrooms. Mark Twain, the weekend program we have run for 25 plus years. The weekday program we have always overseen it, but CRT has provided the food and then we receive it in, make sure it meets health standards and then serve it. With the reduction that happened statewide and we're still, Friday, there's going to be a meeting to find out the impact on the Older Americans Act with the reduction in federal funds. And there's likely going to be significant cuts. Meals on Wheels is a question mark for funding. Choices Insurance that we provide assistance for people signing on for Choices. Those are all kind of on the chopping block. However, the good news is we can continue to provide all the meals because the Enfield Housing Authority already reached out to us, not only to fill gap for this fiscal year, but they're ready in their budget to contract with us if needed to do a 7-day week program. Assessments, 574. We do a variety of assessments, the developmental screenings, ages and stages. The PHQ-9 is a depression screen that we do with all seniors that we work with. LifeWorks is a self-sufficiency assessment, especially when we're working with people struggling financially around housing and homelessness. What do they need assistance with across a variety of indicators, education, health, there's a whole list. And then substance abuse screening is the CRAFT. Our Community Initiatives Division. This one, we have a lot of great community partners, and they've come together in support of mental health and wellness across the lifespan. Historically, Enfield did have ETC focused in on youth, and now we relaunched, we had the kickoff, and we are now focused on a social connections campaign that is going to be bringing in, again, it's for all age cohorts. How do we make people feel more connected to their communities, whether they define that by neighborhood or by the entirety of Enfield? We received a grant around cannabis use prevention, and we are conducting an environmental scan that's going to let us know where our kids accessing the devices and what they're putting in the pens, and there's a lot on, as you can imagine, social media, and so we're going to get a handle on what's the climate and culture in Enfield around marijuana availability and use. We'll use that information come July. We'll be developing our action plan for year 2 of the grant. We've created an e-news, monthly e-news. I encourage you all to sign up and stay informed. And we've updated the website to have a lot more resources available. Part of our community initiative work with partners is the crisis response team. Joanna Fornwall oversees that, and that was all around the suicide prevention, but also a post-vention community plan. If there is a suicide and or sometimes untimely deaths, we want to, as a community, be organized around how we would be able to respond. So again, social services serves as that backbone support, but it includes partners from all the different organizations in the schools. JRB falls under a community initiative. It's the police department, first in the state, 1965. They allow us to partner because they do care about these kids and how can we help them divert from entering into the longer term juvenile system, justice system. FY20, good news, we have a grant now. So historically, the town was paying for social service staff to be able to manage the referrals and the cases and the follow-up. The Department of Children and Families, this is our 3rd year of a grant, and it pays for a part-time case manager 15 hours a week. The referrals for FY24, 59. The state now requires to keep cases open for 6 months, even if there seem to be, in and out, we still maintain contact. And then we closed 57. Year to date, we have 44 new cases, 46 existing cases, and closed 57 so far. 85% of our members, again, these are community partners that serve on the Juvenile Review Board, and 85% of them have been trained in the restorative justice approach, which aligns with best practice. I'm going to end by inviting you to look at our updated web page, or web pages on the new town website. And I love that we have what it used to look like because I can't even remember. What I want to point out here, again, with community partners and resources that we're able to bring to the table. All of this work, which was tremendous, was done by an Asnuntuck work study student. He works for us 15 hours a week. He's paid by the federal work study program. This project was about 450 hours, and you have to see it because it's phenomenal. We also have a second work study because we have really good relationship and the students like working with us. We're kind of interesting. And we now have a young lady that's working in our front office as a receptionist. She's been 7 hours a week paid for by the work study program. And she informed me that next semester she's gonna do all 15 hours because she loves working with us, so. So again, some resource leveraging that we're able to do. That's it.
Thank you, Cindy. Quite a bit of stuff to take in there.
It is.
I'm gonna ask this, I'm gonna ask you the same question. I roughly added up all the stipends and you're somewhere around 45,000 to 50,000.
Of stipends?
Yeah,
Okay, John.
like in social services.
So
child-
again, the stipend is it's a benefit cafeteria plan,
There,
but
that's
as
all
far as-
stipends are, John, in the entire budget. There's no other stipends for
Oh, no,
anything
that's
else.
So there are stipends for EMT, in certain departments.
Right,
so
the police, we covered that.
They'll have some stipends in WPC for other certifications that they might have. There are, trying to think where else we have, mainly in police and I had a breakdown of all the ones for the
Well, you know what, I think
So for
because this is such,
us, so we do not have any of those. Our stipends are the percentage of the salary of non-union.
what we should do, we'll break this down and we'll provide it to the council, because the lion's share are the cafeteria plan, the others are education, EMT. But let's identify all of them in one document, we'll give them to you, and that way the answer will be there for everybody.
Like your budget, your fuel or travel, whatever, car allowance would be a stipend, right?
I don't know. Landfill line item.
I think that's in his.
right. Okay, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get any statement other than that, so if
Right,
if it's
no,
there,
that's
that's
what I
what it would
mean.
be. But I think we should just list them all so people know.
Mike,
I want to be quick. Again, appreciate you playing to my ego. I got to give you credit. I mean, I really did. So, I think, 'cause I remember talking about this. I'm curious. I'm going to take it easy on it because my questions are going to go to John. Through the data, is there anything in the last couple of years that has surprised? And what I mean by that is, based on the data now, that you've changed maybe some of your philosophy or department priorities? You don't have to be detailed, just as maybe one, and, say, look, we didn't know this was happening.
I don't think it's that we didn't know it was happening. What we're seeing are increases. A big increase that we're hearing about is anxiety and mental health challenges for our middle school age girls.
Okay.
And so what we have a couple programs that we're trying to do with the schools and then also outside of the schools. So that's an area that I guess, especially in springtime, they tend to start to battle more.
Right.
So that's an area of focus. I have noticed, and I do want to keep track, I've gotten an increased number of phone calls from veterans around benefits and not getting the benefits that they think they should and having to kind of fight. So we're starting to see an uptick in those phone calls.
Do you put that data on your web or anywhere? I mean, that's what people need to understand.
Right, so right
Right.
now, I mean, I'm keeping an eye, but the
Yeah.
numbers, my
I'm
end
just
is
saying in
small.
general, like when you just showed us,
Right,
is that
right.
somewhere we're saying, hey, look, this is what we're doing for the
Well,
community?
so you
Right.
were the first ones.
Perfect, thank
And
you.
it will now be, we're gonna send it out to our staff and so that everybody can understand we're not torturing you when we ask you to enter your data in. It serves a purpose.
I think we spent 30 grand on that, right? That's 30 grand we ever spent. Thank you
It
very much.
is wonderful.
I'm gonna take you out to hook, John.
Okay.
Curious. So it's actually, I should ask for the IT budget with the fund. So the revenue that, again, we're showing on, the revenue that coming in this social service, I just wanna make sure I understand. That, so for example, if I look, I'm just gonna use, charges for services versus fund balance. Since 23, basically, if I'm doing the math correctly, it looks like more of this, of the revenue is coming from general fund as opposed to services. Is that correct? My math right?
As far as charges for services, yes. However, a lot of the expenditures that you're seeing in there are also funded by grants.
Right,
So-
no, I
So
get it.
basically, the percentage is about 36%.
I'm just taking the charges for services versus the fund balance in your sheet, not any grants. I'm just doing that math.
Right.
I don't know if you want to take it, you can check. That's just, so meaning what we charge for a service versus what general fund, we're using in the general fund.
Right.
Same thing for IT, and I noticed, and I meant to ask this, it looks like the town's percentage of IT, the same, based on the same fund versus the board, we're around 78% and the board's at 15, which is surprising when they have all those iPads that they've given out to all the kids. So just curious if we could look into that. I mean, they haven't changed, their charge hasn't changed since 23 based on the budget.
Correct.
So it's surprising, and I should have asked you this, and I apologize, I didn't do the math. Why isn't their portion of the charge going up since we're giving iPads to students?
There was, so the iPads themselves are funded by the
Right, yeah.
Board of Ed, not us. That's not,
Right.
that's not out of my IT fund. We take care of all non-curricular devices for education.
Okay.
So it'd be teachers, the administrators, anything for students and or labs.
Comes out of their
Comes
budget.
out of their budget, and it's not part of that number there.
Great answer, thank you very much. Yeah. I think that, and my last question, I don't know if this can go, this came up in, charter revision. The money we give to some of the groups, Cindy, I thought we didn't think we could give grants based on the charter. Am I wrong?
We have to have liaisons to the group, and that's why after that meeting,
Okay.
within days, 3 or 4 groups reached out to the town requesting liaisons.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I don't like.
No, don't be sorry.
No, because I remember we talked about it, and then.
Yeah.
Again, thank you for everyone's presentation. Again, the data, it's so important to tell people what we're doing. And so, again, I thank you for it. I'm glad the computer, you're using it to help people. That was the whole point. And again, the data tells you what we need to do for programs, doesn't it? So again, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I'll just say this, Cindy. You have certain things under your control that are very visible, like ECDC, phenomenal program. And then you have other things under your control that probably require more work, and people don't see it. I mean, dealing with the homeless problems in town, the mental health issues, and the amount of work it takes for you and your staff to deal with one of these people is mind-blowing to get them, or attempt to get them, the help that they need. So again, I want to thank you and your staff. You are the huge heart of our community, and I think every single person in the town wants to thank you, because I know I do, and just keep up the great job, and please pass that along to the staff.
I will, thank you.
That's it.
Cindy.
Okay, so we're done for tonight, but Bob had brought up a good point. What do you guys want to do for, tomorrow is our last meeting for department heads, and they're small ones. Do we want to start budget deliberations after that tomorrow night? Do we want to take the weekend, work with our caucuses to go over some ideas, and then, deal with this Tuesday, because Monday we have the town's public hearing. We can have our first budget deliberation Tuesday. Bob's got a good point. It'd be nice to have a little notice of what we're doing as far as deliberations go. I'm open. It doesn't matter to me. I would think waiting and discuss, have caucuses this weekend, each side get a hold of where we want to be with the budget or ideas, and then we can deal with them on Tuesday night, if that's okay.
Is CIP tomorrow as well? I can't remember what was on the
It's on the-
schedule.
It's library,
Yeah, it's not.
town attorney,
Here it is.
Library economic development.
economic development, there's 3.
I think we forgot CIP.
What we do, we'll add it.
We don't have.
Ms. Gina will take what we're, like, from my budget, and we can present it tomorrow. I think Don will list, yeah, we'll provide that, and we can discuss it tomorrow as well. We'll put it up and go over the high points of it. We've discussed some of it with cars and radios and trucks, but it's more,
Right.
yes.
So just add that to the
I'll add-
agenda for tomorrow night, because it was pretty late to begin with.
Yeah.
I would-
Jeff?
I'm sorry, just Sheila's not here, but just do we have to vote to add something to the agenda because it's published? I mean, we could vote right now.
We have to, we should, yes, he's right. Point
Well,
of
it's
order.
budget
No.
deliberations.
No, it's a presentation, which is a regular meeting, which is scheduled tomorrow. right?
Does it,
And she'll
right,
post
does
it
it
in
need to
agenda.
be a presentation?
You know
or can we
what, I'll
just
find
get
out,
it?
because you're right, John, if it is, it's too late to add it. So if it isn't, we'll discuss it, and if not, we'll have to do it next week, because you're right, we can't
But I think we can
add it
vote.
here.
But,
We
yeah, that's what
cannot
I think-
add to a special meeting.
Oh, it's a
we
special meeting, it's
cannot.
not a regular meeting. Okay.
I think we can take it up under
That's
any of
fine.
those other departments,
Yeah,
though, without, I think we can talk about it, and we'll make sure it's
Right,
proper.
the whole,
Just
the whole
hand it out.
agenda is
Got it,
budget deliberations, so,
got it.
I mean, that'd be like saying Mike couldn't go back and ask Paul a question about IT because Paul was done.
I don't know that I need
So-
more than that.
And Gina's saying, we'll have it, we'll hand it out, and then we'll determine if we can discuss
Yeah,
it.
you don't, it doesn't necessarily need
You wanna
to
see
be
it.
a presentation.
Oh,
I
no,
just
right.
need
John,
paper.
tomorrow, and Steve will make sure we send that.
And then honestly, I would say Tuesday, that's my vote.
Yeah, I would be in favor of getting together with your caucus over the weekend, having the public hearing Monday, which is already scheduled, and come back on Tuesday to hash out things, and if Wednesday we need to, then let's do it.
What do you
I'm
guys think?
okay with that.
Good with that. I think we have to respect the public hearing, not do anything before it. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right, so if we can just schedule 2 meetings out for next week,
Yeah, we've listed that
Tuesday and
day.
Wednesday.
We'll list them and we'll post them now that we know you want to go forward on Tuesday and Wednesday.
Okay, and then after that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor? Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Good job.